After large price increases, car values are now stabilizing or even correcting. But when I think about cars that might maintain their elevated price levels, the Ferrari California is not the first car that comes to my mind. The data though clearly shows that I'm wrong. California values have been exceptionally strong and even outperformed some more popular Ferraris during the last quarter. In this video I will show you the current market state, including a market overview, the price development over time, and a comparison to some other cars like the Porsche 911 and the Lexus LC500. Let's start with the market overview for the US market. Over here we have the market split by the normal and the T models. And to keep the graph readable, I excluded the 70th anniversary editions. In total there are 175 cars for sale, and you can see that there are large price differences between the new T models and the older base models. A base model sets you back approximately $123,000 and a T model $169,000. Yet, prices already start around $95,000. We can also see that you need to bring around $7,000 if you want a new model year in the base market and around $10,000 in the T market. The premium in the latter is of course a bit higher because the car is newer. If we look at the market from a mileage perspective, we can see that both models have a similar mileage sensitivity. The T loses around $1.2 thousand or 0.7% per 1,000 miles driven, and for the base model this is $1,000 or 0.8%. But these are of course average numbers. Low mileage cars lose slightly more and high mileage cars slightly less. Now looking at the numbers themselves, we can say that they are on the high side, especially for the base model. It's a slightly older car and you typically see that the mileage sensitivity lays somewhere below 0.6%. But then again, it's a Ferrari. You can of course also question how much this actually matters. Base models, for example, get only driven around 1.6 thousand miles per year. Nevertheless, the mileage sensitivity might be slightly higher than it is for other cars, but the value development over time makes up for this. My previous Ferrari video was titled "The Ferrari Market is Cracking", and you can click over here if you want to check out that video. That video though covered the mid-engine models, and in that market we can see that the upward momentum faded away and that some models saw quite significant price decreases. And the latter applied especially to the Spider markets. So when I was updating the California market, I was expecting similar price drops. So what happened? Prices did indeed come down, but far less and in a much more stable fashion than in some other markets. Let's have a look. Over here we have the price trends for the base and the T models, and this reveals that prices followed the market to a large extent. Between March 2020 and December 2021, prices soared. Base models increased by 25% and T models by 16%. And this upward momentum ended in the beginning of this year, but there's no reason to panic. Base models came down by 1.3% and T models by 2.5%. And I think it makes sense that the T models lost slightly more. They're a lot newer, and this means that the traditional depreciation effect is stronger in that market. Overall, I think that this is an excellent result for the California. These cars are often criticized, and one could even argue that they don't have the same status as the mid-engine models. But based on this chart, all of that appears to be nonsense. We can see that the market held up really well, and we will soon compare this to some other cars. But let's first dive a little bit deeper into the market. You see, it are especially the older, higher mileage cars within each generation that kept their value. The younger, low mileage cars are more susceptible to depreciation and saw larger losses. Starting with this plot for the base market, we can see that 2014 and 2013 cars lost around $10,000 since the beginning of this year. And this is significantly more than, for example, the 2010 and 2011 cars. They lost respectively $3,000 and $1,000. Now because these price trends are split by model year, they are more volatile than the aggregate trends we looked at before. But we can see the same pattern when we look at the prices split by mileage buckets. Over here we can see that the cars with a mileage between 0 and roughly 10,000 miles lost the most since the beginning of the year. They came down by $6,000. And these cars tend to be from the latest model years. Looking at the higher mileage cars, we can see that they lost way less. Prices for cars with mileages between 11 and 16,000 miles, for example, dropped $3,000, and prices for cars between 16 and 24,000 miles did not change. And all of this confirms the previous graph. The price drop in the California market is mainly driven by the newer, lower mileage cars. The same applies to the California T. We can see here that the cars between 0 and 10,000 miles lost considerably more than the rest of the market. The lowest mileage bucket, for example, came down by $6,000 and the second lowest by $8,000. prices for cars in the two lowest mileage buckets were fairly stable since the beginning of the year. Now after that detailed look at the prices, it's time to have a look at a different aspect of the market, the supply levels. Dynamics changed over there. Over here we have the supply levels for the California and the California T. And this first of all reveals that supply levels are very low compared to pre-pandemic levels. Supply dropped sharply in 2020 and recovered slightly during 2021. During 2022 the levels fluctuated and now there are only around half of the cars for sale compared to 2020. Second, we can see that supply for the California T is now above supply for the normal California. And it will be interesting to see how this all develops going forward and if lower supply levels will support the current prices. Alright, we established now that prices increased since the beginning of the year and that they have been fairly stable ever since. Prices came down slightly, but the drop is mainly caused by the newer cars from the most recent model years. So let's find out how these prices compare to some of its competitors. For this video I chose the 911, the LC500 and another Ferrari. But before we look at those, if you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by clicking on the like button down below. Thank you. Starting with a comparison between the base California and the LC500, we can see that there are a lot of similarities. LC500s increased by 18% in 2022 and this is in the same ballpark as the increase in the California market. We can also see that prices flattened after that and have been exceptionally stable. I don't think that I've ever seen such a stable price pattern. The median price at the end of 2021 was $89,990 and now it is $89,998. So what about the 911? The cars are perhaps not targeted at exactly the same customers, but I bet that many California buyers also looked at the 911 or at least even thought about the 911. Let's start with the California T. You can compare it to many different 911s, but price-wise the California T falls nicely between the 991.1 and 991.2 Turbo S. Price patterns are similar up until the end of 2021. All cars saw large increases. The .1 Turbo, for example, increased by 20%, whereas this was 16% for the Ferrari. But things changed during this year. .2 Turbo S's are down by 5.5% and the .1s by 3.3%. Especially the drop in the .2 market contrasts to the minus 2.5% in the California T market. Looking at the price trends, we can also see that the price decrease accelerated in the turbo market, and we cannot see this in the California T market. If you by the way want to know more about this price drop in the turbo market, then I recommend that you click over here to check out the full market analysis. If we compare the normal California to the 997.2 Turbo, we can see again that prices increased during 2020 and 2021. Yet, the price increase in the 997 Turbo market was much larger than the one in the California market. The price increase from the lowest to the highest point is 35%. During the last 3 months though, the turbo market came down hard. Prices came down by $5,000 or by 4%. If we take a different approach and compare the California to the 991.2 Carrera 2S, we can see that prices are almost identical. However, and this is interesting, I think we can see that the Carrera already started to come down in May. Prices dropped by 2%, and this is almost the same as the 1.8% drop in the California market. Hence, I think that the California held its own quite well. Prices did not decrease significantly more than in any of the other markets. In many comparisons, the California even came out as a winner. It's only when we compare the values to one of the other Ferraris that the California struggles. Over here we have the California, California T and the F430 automatic Spyders. I know, the F430 is not a direct competitor, but it sits perfectly between the two models in terms of price points. This also reveals that F430 values continue to increase till June of this year, and hereby saw a much larger total price increase. Yet, also they might have topped, as you can see. And with that it's time to wrap up and conclude. The Ferrari California was not always loved by car journalists. Yet, based on the data that we analyzed, the market loves it. Values increased after the pandemic in line with the market trend and are now relatively stable. California price dynamics are in no way worse than prices for any other cars. In fact, we saw that the California market outperformed some other key markets during this year. And it will be interesting to see if values will also be this stable in the future. As we saw, there are some car markets that saw significant price decreases during the previous quarter. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you're interested in any of the other cars that you saw in the video, then I recommend that you head over to my channel. They all have their own market analysis over there. If you're interested in a different car and you cannot find it on the channel, let me know in the comment section which car it is. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.